Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking. Right, let's have a look at these markets then relatively quickly. First things first, news-wise, UK GDP today came out point 0.1. So it's pretty much in line with expected. Some of the other data, that's the the detail below, etc., didn't look. It was a bit mixed. What I could see from that. Australia, we saw the unemployment or the employment data coming out. Unemployment, as it happens, is slightly higher than expected, pushing up to 4.5%. These are not massive numbers, but some economies, such as the Australian economy, very fragile at times with its employment data. So just need to watch that carefully. Okay, coming out today, got FOMC speaker. What's he? Let's have a quick look here. Due to a participant in discussion about the economic outlook on the foreign. Okay, that might get something going. I don't think it'll be massive, but you never know. We've got a side of that. ECB President Lagarde speaking. For the economists out there, probably interesting, but whether that'll actually kick into anything, we'll see. Anyway, not a great deal. Nothing tomorrow. So let's see what happens today then, eh? Hanging in there. China versus US. It would appear. Right. So let's look at the bigger picture on what's happening here. The euro did gain its traction, so it did its double bottom there on Tuesday. Yesterday managed to eventually push up. We're edging up at the moment. It's a bit of a messy old bit of price action here at the moment, coming down into the hourlies. What's happened? I've switched the 4 hourly to an hourly. Let me it's alright, I'll use it for the weekly pivots. Okay, it's broken now. Yeah, I was a bit concerned of this trend yesterday. We were seeing changes here, and we saw the break of the high between the two lows, which is a trigger for the long side of a change. But we were quite often we're at this sort of stage, then starting to move above trend. We were still below the trend, but now everything's aligning here. It took a while to get going there yesterday, for sure. How it's sitting at the moment, it's not looking too pretty. We've got an untouched daily pivot here. Okay, it's hit the R1 generally. The probability of the pivot being hit then is less. It's only about 20-25% once that's happened, but it doesn't mean, obviously there's a 20% chance it may still happen. And as it's looking at the moment, it's looking quite soft. A reaction off that level, around that level, you can see we've got previous highs here, or we might not even get back that far. We might just get back to the sort of these more recent highs. Might give further upside. It has got higher lows going on in this short-term point of view. And well, I was going to say we've structurally changed for now, and we could see this retracing even back to its weekly pivot and reacting. So there's a few points there if it does come off much further, but of course it might all turn around at come 8 o'clock and go. But I haven't necessarily got an entry for that yet. Need something. I know someone's. Well, I think someone's still long. We'll see. The pound dollar then. This also is pushing its way up there. Looking, it's a bit more of a mess on the 4 hourlies here. It was always a bit flatter. Has put arguably higher lows kicking in through here. But at the moment it's really not liking things too much. It's retracing. It had a good Asian session there, but at the moment retracing. The question is it going to spin round, start moving, break perhaps the top of the flaggy sort of pattern that's there, or are we going to see it run all the way down to its pivot? So say the stats on the pivots are lower, but they've still got the chance of being hit. US dollar yen, as we're looking at here, well, daily wise, again, yesterday it carried on moving. It's put a little pivoty swing in there over the last 3 days. Today it's sort of triggered the lower side of that, but again at this stage we're just seeing a bit of dollar strength coming through in these markets. This sort of appeals a little bit if it can hold here into its pivot. I quite like the fact it's been lower highs, lower lows here on the lower time frame. If it was to stall here, then start breaking down below the low of this 7 current bar post 8 o'clock, that would maybe look a bit more attractive. If it starts breaking through, perhaps the 50 might give us another move. We close back, we've already retested it once, so won't be quite so stable. Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar, now data, the employment data wasn't brilliant, but it's not really suffering too much. It just didn't move as well as the other markets. During that Asian session, ironically it's picking up now, whereas the others are weakening. This is actually picking up a little bit here, but it looks quite ugly, so I'll shift on, leave that one alone. US dollar CAD still been softening. The overall picture here for the CAD is to soften. Sorry, when I say softening, looking at the US dollar CAD, I don't mean the US dollar. That obviously has been pushing through. Yesterday it's flat and ugly. I really don't like it. This is the intermediate time frame, 4-hour time frame. If it looks flat on that, it's flat. New Zealand really follows the Aussie largely. Not too keen on this. It might be a better short potentially on the breakdown here. It's not quite into its dailies there. It looks horrible on the short term here though. Looks really ugly. That's a mess. Looks better on its 4-hourly, potentially for a breakdown. Hides the mess sometimes. That's why going up and down time frames gives us a better picture of what's really going on. Yesterday was a horrible old day with it. To say, most of these markets are pushed up against the dollar through the Asian session, which this one did, but coming off a bit at the moment. Don't like it though. Sorry, spent a lot of time looking at it just to tell you I don't like it, but I'm fussy. Okay, not going anywhere with this US dollar Swissy. At the moment it's not as pretty. Well, I don't know. Down to its weekly S1, but it's hit the pivot. It's a bit similar to the other markets here. We're going counter at the moment, so we sort of bear flag on this territory. We'll see what happens. Again, like the euro and the pound, hasn't hit the pivots up here. It's the potential that to happen. Less, but it still could happen. Right, not a great deal else. A lot of these cross pairs are a bit bitty this morning. Not seeing anything I particularly like. In fact, it's just been quite ugly. Gold is up 0.5%, a third of a percent this morning after having a sell-off earlier. Right, so once again, new highs into a we're into the R4 on the yearlies there. So I mean, this territory we're well out of this territory. Generally, there's only normally something like well, up to a 7% chance of it breaking its R3s on any given market really. Well, and closing below the R3 at the end of the year, it's only a 3% chance. Well, this is well away from its R3 into its R4. You're talking about sort of right out there on the edge of statistics, but it's still pushing up. It's at abnormal times, and I say relatively, but it's still pushing solidly. And there's that horrible hourly bar that came off this morning, but it's picking back up there. I think again didn't come back to its pivot here. That is actually picking up quite strongly at the moment. but just looks, there's not an entry for me on there personally. It's probably too far past. There's better things to trade, or there might be. Oil steadily going nowhere at the moment. You see it's inside bar yesterday, not really doing too much here. Once again, just as I was thinking I'll get back into trading some oil, I'm not trading oil at the moment, and again, it's just not been there for me a lot of the time. Right, okay, equity markets, S&Ps. S&Ps, it's trying its best to continue to the upside here. Really ugly yesterday there in the afternoon, but it's effectively, this isn't a higher low, but it's put a higher low in back there, and it's doing its best, isn't it, to continue up here. At the moment, to me, still looks bullish. If I was looking at buying it too, I don't like going in too early on these markets. I prefer the cash period, when the cash market's open. But a push up to this prior high would be quite nice. Might get a bit of resistance around that area, but it's got the pivot just around that area as well. Looks okay. The FTSE, well, it's died off a bit. The FTSE, it's consolidating where it is here. It's looking like it's putting a little old head and shouldery sort of pattern. It's just a nowhere pattern here at the moment, and if it was to carry on breaking down here, it could even become a short. It was one I would leave alone yesterday. Today it looks a bit shorty. One I didn't leave alone yesterday was the DAX, and it's picking a bit up at the moment, but this is my shorting pair of the equity markets. It just seems, I say pair, did I say pair? Crazy man. Anyway, it was showing opportunities yesterday morning even. I know someone got in it quite early in the morning. I missed the early shift here, and I got in the afternoon, and it did what I was looking for anyway. Back down to these lows here. It broke down. It was quite lateish in the afternoon. Just looking, I was on the 2 o'clock bar. Anyway, fortunate, I don't know. It certainly it shot down, and it was a nice surprise there to see it closed out. I'm looking at it again at the moment and thinking, well, we could get a bit of a repeat. I'd be looking at it maybe as we go through this morning here on the break of these lows over here. So give it a bit of time just in case it chops around a little bit. Could take it on the break of the pivot. It's almost there though. It's 8 o'clock. It's just opening. I'd leave it a little bit personally. I quite like the break of these lows down again towards the S1. See how we go there. It possibly looks slightly short into yesterday's low and the previous low there. I don't always expect it to hit the S1. I mean, it went through it a bit yesterday, but I looked at the previous bodies there as the exit point. Anyway, there we go. So there's a possibility there. We'll see how it goes. It's into its pivot now, but give it a bit of time. I don't like jumping straight in, because with a lot of equity markets, you'll see when the cash markets opens, you get the surges only for them to pull back, etc. Get like the gaps, etc. Well, no gaps on the futures. Right. Anyway, on that note, that's pretty much me done for this morning. I wish you a good day's trading, and I'll catch you. First thing in the morning then, 7:45. Take care. Bye for now.